A school in Oxford's considering closing a week early ahead of Christmas because of an outbreak of COVID-19. Cheney School wrote to parents saying various measures were being considered after 5 children in one year group tested positive. Patrick's a student at the school. He told us just 2 weeks ago that his fellow students needed to stick to the rules to stay safe.
I think just a lot more responsibility needs to be taken by the students in identifying that there are people in our year that are trying to social distance to protect their families. The teachers and staff here at Cheney are trying their very best. It's just the students that need to take a bit more responsibility.
We'll be speaking to the head teacher of Cheney in an hour's time. Meanwhile, one of our MPs is calling for teachers and education support staff to be in the top priority group for a coronavirus vaccine after she hosted head teachers in her constituency at a roundtable event. Layla Moran, Liberal Democrat MP for Oxford West and Abingdon, spoke to them to hear about the situation on the ground.
It came off the back of a town hall meeting that I had with heads from local schools. And what became clear is that a lot of the challenges that they are facing, namely shortages because people have had to self-isolate because they've been contacted by the tracing app or have become sick. This is really taking its toll on our education system.
A government spokesperson told us that vaccination of those at increased risk of exposure to COVID-19 due to their work could be a priority in the next phase, and that could include teachers.
It's been a difficult few months for schools. I think it's fair to say, doing their best to keep coronavirus at bay. It was such a struggle during lockdown, wasn't it, with home learning and then the schools that did allow some pupils back, trying to make the most of it. One school in Oxford now, though, is considering closing for Christmas a week earlier than scheduled because of an outbreak of the virus. Recently, I spoke to a pupil there. Patrick goes to Cheney School in Oxford, and he told me a week or so ago that staff and students are doing their best, but not everybody is sticking to the rules.
So the behaviour has improved from the students, both the students and teachers. So we have had students wear face masks a lot more often now. They have been trying to wash their hands more. And we have noticed that students have been trying to social distance from the other year groups.
Are people following the rules, though, do you think? Is it possible to follow the rules when you've got a busy school with everybody running around the place?
I think as a majority, a lot of the students are trying to follow the rules. Like, we have noticed that a lot of the older students have actually been trying to follow the rules. However, it's just a small minority of the younger students that haven't been really taking that initiative or responsibility to attempt to social distance.
I mean, the bottom line, do you feel safe at school at the moment then?
Currently, with the consistency of wearing masks and the consistency of what I have seen of people participating in personal hygiene, I don't really feel that safe in school.
So what would you like to see from teachers and from your fellow students then? What needs to change?
I think just a lot more responsibility needs to be taken by the students in identifying that there are people in our year that are trying to social distance to protect their families, as they are at high risk. Whereas the teachers and staff here at Cheney are trying their very best. It's just the students that need to take a bit more responsibility.
But does that leadership come from teachers? If they see children who aren't following the rules as they should be, then the teachers need to act, don't they? Or are the teachers to blame for this?
I personally think that the teachers are trying their very best, especially with the students, as I've noticed over the last couple of weeks coming back after half term, that they have been trying their very best to enforce the rules. But it's just that when the teachers aren't present, the students are just taking off their masks. They're all coming into huddle in one group in a very small area.
Why do you think that they just don't get it or don't seem to care?
I think it's because they're not a high-risk group, really. They don't really see the fact that coronavirus will affect them, which is true for our age group. But there are people in our year that are trying to shield their families from coronavirus.
What are you going to do about this? Is there anything you can do, Patrick, or are you just going to keep your head down in the meantime?
We've brought up our concerns to the school, and they have been trying their very best to single out that minority and get them to actually obey the rules. But there is really nothing I can do, which is why we want to spread the cause saying that students need to take more responsibility. As although Cheney are in a better position than other schools in Oxfordshire, we're not in the clear yet. It'll just be a matter of time before cases start rising again in the school.
Well, that was Patrick at Cheney School talking to me a few weeks ago. Rob Pavey is head teacher at Cheney. They're dealing with an outbreak at the moment. Good morning to Mr. Pavey. What's the situation at the school right now then?
Good morning. Well, as Patrick said, we have actually had an outbreak. We've been very lucky actually so far that we've been relatively unaffected. This is the first time we've actually had a significant number of cases all at once. There's a particular tutor group in Year 8 where there have been 6 or 7 cases within that one class, and then it spread from there via siblings to a couple of other year groups. So we have asked 3 of our year groups, so years 8, 9 and 10, to work from home for the rest of this week, and that's actually largely because of staff shortages, because every time that we have a case, we tend to, on average, have to ask 25 students and a couple of member staff to self-isolate, and we've now got, yesterday was more than 20 staff who are self-isolating or waiting for tests themselves. So it's down to staffing, really.
20 staff out of how many? How many staff do you have there?
So we've got just under 100 teachers, and there are 200 adults on site and 1,600 students normally. It's
a huge organisation you're running, Rob. This is a constant headache for you, isn't it, I would imagine? Staffing in schools is always can always be a problem. But we've been amazingly lucky, actually, at Cheney. We really have. Our attendance over the last few weeks has been over 95%, which is amazing. It's down to the resilience of the students. It's down to parental support. It's down to our fantastic staff. And that's when the national picture, attendance in secondary school has been dropping down into 70%. So, the irony is, of course, that this has hit us just as infections are starting to drop locally, and Patrick mentioned about the mask wearing, as you said, that interview was a couple of weeks ago, and he was right. But behaviour change takes time. If you were to wander around the corridors now, you would find 90+% compliance with the mask wearing. So this has hit us actually as the hygiene measures and the mask wearing and everything else is better than it ever has been. But, as Patrick said, we aren't immune, and our luck, in a sense, has finally run out with this outbreak in Year 8. You must be counting the days to Christmas. I mean, there's only a week or so left, isn't there? I know certainly at my son's secondary school. You're not just tempted to close the school early now to be on the safe side. I mean, what can they really achieve in the next few days at school?
We can achieve a huge amount, and actually, I surveyed parents on Monday in the wake of this, and there was, I got 520 some responses very, very quickly, which is testament to the amazing support of the Cheney parent body. 91% were in favour of a working from home week next week. So we're also in an extremely good position in that our full curriculum, all of our lessons continue entirely unaffected, because we've been working very, very hard all term on being able to live stream every single one of our lessons. So it doesn't matter if a child is in school or at home. They are still getting all of their lessons. So that's what we're going to do next week. We'll all be working from home. The year groups that were out yesterday, over 90% were in their lessons, albeit via a laptop at home. So, education has changed hugely, and there's some really, really positive developments that are coming out of this, which allows us to be more flexible, more resilient, and there's nothing that the pandemic can do to us now, which will interrupt our children's education.
And just briefly, finally, Schools Minister Nick Gibb has said that schools can schedule an inset day next Friday to allow 6 clear days before Christmas. I mean, that doesn't affect you directly now if you are instructing everyone to work from home. But would you welcome that decision?
So, I mean, the flexibility for head teachers to make sensible decisions for their own circumstances is a good one. The government's come under a lot of fire about not having enough guidance and so on and so forth. But from my perspective, what I want is clear advice, and then the ability to make decisions in consultation with our own parents, with our own students, with our own staff, for our own circumstances. And that's what we're able to do. I mean, that sounds sensible. Of course, the self-isolation period is 14 days, not 6. But I guess it's a step in the right direction. But as we're taking a slightly more radical approach, it won't affect us.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you very much. It's good to speak to you this morning, Rob Pavey. Thank you for coming on. Appreciate your time. From Cheney School, if you're a pupil or a parent there or other schools you've got concerns, let us know. Get in touch. 0808 100 9100. And I wonder how you feel about this extra day, by the way, to give teachers a break and also to allow 6 clear days before Christmas Eve. The idea, of course, and it's implied, they haven't said it in as many words, so it's something that we've discussed over the last few weeks, and it's something we're thinking about at home, whether it's possible to isolate the children so that they'll have a good, clear week almost before they see their grandparents, something, sort of a self-imposed quarantine. Well, that's practical in the run-up to Christmas. I doubt it, but it's something worth considering, isn't it? 080. That's Rob Pavey, who's head teacher at Cheney School. Front pages of, by the way, if your school is struggling at the moment, if you get the sense that it may close early, let us know with your parents or teachers. Front of the local papers. Just a week to go then till the end of term, and teachers and parents will breathe a huge sigh of relief. One school in Oxfordshire, though, is considering closing early because of an outbreak of coronavirus.